In the ever-shifting political climate of the U.S. and Canada, respect and collaboration remain their ultimate test of diplomacy. The interplay between leadership styles and policy priorities reveals that significant differences between Canada and the U.S. persist. But do Canadian Conservatives have bigger differences with U.S. Republicans than Canadian Liberals? And how would a Conservative victory in Canada's federal election reshape the dynamics of its relationship with the U.S.? Join us as we unveil Canada and U.S. get along. Had Conservatives won the federal election, Canada, like most countries, is forced to deal with the pinch of increasing living expenses outpacing flatline wages, with typical Canadians struggling to make ends meet. Political parties reacted with rival plans to return more dollars into the pockets of people. Both the Conservatives and Liberals intend to reduce taxes on the lowest income tax bracket, but by different amounts. The Liberals suggest a modest 1 percentage point reduction, while the Conservatives advocate for a deeper reduction from 15% to 17.5%. Conservatives also vow to cut the federal sales tax on new houses and Canadian-built automobiles. Still, the Liberals target first-time buyers, exempting from sales taxes homes that cost less than 1 million Canadian dollars. At the same time, the Quebec-oriented Bloc Québécois targets pensioners with a planned 10% boost to old-age security payments and combats credit card interest. From the left, the NDP promises necessities, vowing to end the federal sales tax on energy, telephone, and internet charges, and to double income assistance for the disabled. These are expressions of varying visions of economic comfort that share similar concerns about affordability and equity. The election in Canada was sidetracked by the shadow of a trade war with its economic best friend after President Donald Trump's imposition of tariffs on Canadian products and threats to its sovereignty dominated what Canada needed to do next. Federal parties almost came together on the need for retaliatory tariffs, but differed on how to use the revenues. Conservatives promised tax relief to affected workers, and the Liberals and NDP vowed to reinvest every dollar earned back into helping affected workers and businesses. In addition to a retaliatory response on day one, the Liberals offered expansive spending of 5 billion Canadian dollars to unlock trade corridors, update infrastructure such as ports and railways, and protect Canada's auto industry with a further 2 billion Canadian dollars. Conservatives at home focused on reform vowed to eliminate obstacles to intra-regional trade and move toward a more united union with its friends through a trade and mobility agreement with the UK, Australia, and New Zealand. The Bloc Québécois made the case for targeted assistance, such as support for Quebec's aluminum sector, which was impacted by American tariffs on metal, as well as pandemic-style support for affected workers. The NDP, in a remarkably belligerent tone, called for a 100% tariff on Tesla goods should Trump proceed and threatened to remove the president from Alberta's next year's G7 summit. Both visions point not only to the economic interests, but also to the high-conviction diplomacy required to navigate this tense partnership. Additionally, Canada's defense expenditure has been criticized, most recently by President Donald Trump, for not meeting the NATO target of 2% of GDP. Liberals and Conservatives alike made promises to meet this level by 2030, with plans to deploy more Canadian troops and enhance capabilities. The Liberals have an 18 billion Canadian dollar budget over 4 years, with purchasing new submarines and heavy icebreakers for Canada's northern perimeter as a priority. The Conservatives, with a marginally smaller budget of 17 billion Canadian dollars over the same duration, are set to open new Arctic military bases in Iqaluit and Churchill, Manitoba, as part of an enhanced northern defense focus. The NDP, in expanding its timeline to 2032, has a divergent strategy, which includes demanding the cancellation of contracts for fighter jets and aircraft produced by the U.S., investing money in enhancing indigenous defense infrastructure, and establishing more bases in the Arctic region. These divergent plans reveal differing priorities in meeting Canada's defense commitments within its geopolitical context. Moreover, Canada's most urgent issue is the housing crisis, with millions of dollars spent on homes in the last decade. The Liberals have attempted to address the challenge by seeking to fund a federal agency responsible for creating affordable homes through 25 billion Canadian dollars of debt financing for prefabricated home builders. This vision is to double housing starts every year year and reach 500,000. The Conservatives are bottom-line driven and link federal funds to cities based on the number of houses built. They intend to build 1.3 million houses over 5 years, or 460,000 annually. They want to sell off 15% of federal properties to develop land for lower-cost housing. The NDP platform is highly pro-affordability, with a pledge to construct 3 million affordable housing units over the same 5-year time frame. They would also expedite the approval process and allocate $1 billion Canadian dollars for rent-controlled apartments. In the long term, the NDP would set aside federal land to build 100,000 rent-controlled units by 2035, with a focus on long-term solutions to address the affordability issue. The visions of the two parties express differing priorities, but both respect the critical need to address Canada's housing issues. Nevertheless, policies for Canada's climate and energy have become a battleground of competing visions, with both parties offering different routes to reconcile environmental and economic development concerns. The Conservatives have promised to abolish all carbon pricing, claiming it will reduce red tape and stimulate the economy. They intend to cancel the oil and gas emissions limit, roll back Bill C-69, a divisive environmental assessment bill, and add a tax credit to support clean production alongside supporting resource development. Conversely, the Liberals aim to refine their industrial carbon tax to strike a balance between emissions reduction and competitiveness. They also favor developments in carbon removal and sequestration technology, accelerating clean energy projects, and creating an east-west electricity grid. Liberal leader Mark Carney has also indicated a willingness to consider new pipelines to diversify away from U.S. energy. The NDP is stronger on emissions, keeping the industrial carbon price and blocking LNG and oil pipeline projects. They agree with the Bloc and Green Party to end fossil fuel subsidies. The Greens are more aggressive, proposing a rapid shift to an exclusively renewable energy system by phasing out coal, oil, and gas power generation and heavily investing in solar, wind, hydro, and geothermal energy. They also demand the halt of all new oil exploration and pipeline construction. The disagreement marks opposing visions with sharply contrasting methods of tackling an escalating climate crisis versus fueling economic growth. Anyway, had the Conservatives won in the federal election, do you think Canada and the U.S., despite Trump's trade drama, would likely have enjoyed an even stronger bond, fostering cooperation between the two nations? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video on your screen. You will enjoy it.